Hey everyone, it's Kozy here, and today we'll be doing a character analysis video on the one, the only, Anemo Archon, Barbatos, better known as Venti. So yeah, grab a snack, get cozy, and dive into the lore of Barbatos, or better known as Venti. Venti is a character that means a lot to me, both story-wise and sentimentally. He was the first ever character I got when I first played Genshin all the way back in 1.0. So who better to start the character analysis video series than with Venti? Let's first get into a rundown of his background and lore before we get into the analysis portion of this video. We of course learn a majority of Venti's story through his character stories in his profile, as well as through his story quest. 2,600 years ago, before the setting of the game, was an era that took countless lives of both gods and mortals, known as the Archon War. The war was a seemingly never-ending power struggle between gods who wished to claim one of the 7 divine seats in Celestia. One such god that took part in the war was Dekarabian, the god of storms. He created and founded Old Mondstadt, the place now known as Stormterror's lair. Dekarabian was very protective of his city, and it was one of his favorite achievements. So when Andreas, another god, declared war on Old Mondstadt, Dekarabian used his power as the god of storms to form a barrier around Mondstadt. The barrier was made of a never-ceasing and impenetrable windstorm that even the birds of the air couldn't move through. While this did solve the threat outside the walls, the storm barrier prevented both entry and exit, meaning that the inhabitants inside could not leave. During this time, there was also a small elemental spirit, who was nothing but a single thread of the 1,000 winds that roared through the northern lands. This small spirit had not a shred of divine dignity nor presence, and was just a simple breeze that brought along subtle changes for the better. The small spirit would find a young boy in Mondstadt, a bard, who knew how to play the lyre and longed to write the greatest poem of all. The elemental spirit managed to obtain a feather of an eagle for the young bard shortly before a war broke out in Mondstadt, a war for freedom. The spirit didn't have time to give the feather to the boy, so he tucked away the feather in his breast pocket and waited and watched as the battle continued, until finally, amidst the ruins of Old Mondstadt, he witnessed the fall of the eccentric ruler with his friend. After the battle subsided, the rebels had victory and defeated the tyrant who imprisoned them within, but despite the victory, the little wind spirit would never be able to give the young bard the feather, as he had fallen during the heat of battle, for the sake of song, sky, and birds, and also for the people who, like him, had dwelled within the storm wall. With freedom now in the hands of Mondstadt's people, and now the crumbling of an ancient power, divinity was gifted to a newborn god, the little elemental being now known as the Anemo Archon, Barbatos. The first thing he did with his newfound divinity was to remake himself in form and likeness of the young bard, for only in a human shape could he play the lyre that the boy loved so much. He would name this vessel Venti. Then his hands plucked at the strings of the lyre, and with it scattered the ice and snow and split the mountains with a divine wind. And with it, Mondstadt became a city of freedom, a nation without a king or ruler. And in the future, he believed that it would become a better, more romantic city. Thus the new age of Mondstadt began. With the newfound freedom, Mondstadters began rebuilding a new home for themselves, and Mondstadt lived and thrived as the city of freedom for many years. But eventually, after 1,600 years of history, Mondstadt's freedom had sunk to a heretofore unseen low. Barbatos had long departed from Mondstadt, as he was unwilling to become a tyrant and left his people to be with themselves. During his absence, the aristocracy had aristocracy. I'm gonna hope that's how you pronounce it, because I don't really look it up. Every time I look at something up, it stops my recording. During his absence, the aristocracy had begun to rule Mondstadt with a cruel and unjust hand. They began bringing in slaves from other nations, ignoring any cries of the oppressed. One of these slaves was a girl named Vanessa, a flame-touched Morax. She served as a champion gladiator in the Colosseum, which earned her the title of Lion Fang Knight. During the events of Genshin's webcomic, Vanessa gives her sister Lynn some herbs in order to help with her recovery from some unknown illness. After giving the herbs, she says she'll be back with more tomorrow and to get plenty of rest. In a forest somewhere, animals such as deer and birds are disturbed by a sudden influx of animal energy, causing them to flee. The energy subsides, revealing Venti, who had been asleep for an undisclosed amount of time, however, certainly a long one. After awakening, Venti returns to the new city of Mondstadt. He sings a few tunes for some children in the plaza for some silver. He then notices that the city is seemingly barren, an extreme lack of people aside from a few merchants. When he asks around, he finds out it's because of an event known as Ludi Harpastum, which is being held at the heights of the city, leaving the lower parts mostly empty. Ludi Harpastum is known for being a festival that has many games and events across 15 days. One of these events happens when the champion of the games picks a maiden to throw a Harpastum ball into a crowd, and the lucky lad who catches it would be richly rewarded and have a year's worth of good fortune. At least that's how it's meant to be. But starting 5 years ago, according to a random townsman, Barca Lawrence, son of the city's lord, has been the only one allowed to pick up the Harpastum, as anyone who tries would be swiftly punished. Venti was having none of that, so when the maiden threw the Harpastum, Barca Lawrence came to grab it, only for Venti to snatch it off the ground. Venti attempts to flee with the ball, only to bump into Vanessa, who knocks him to the ground by accident. This altercation ends up getting Vanessa in trouble, as she refuses to go after Venti once he flees again. That night, Barca has his father by Vanessa and her clan, and she's put in a jail cell, but sometime later, Venti shows up and tries to free Vanessa from her captives, where Vanessa refuses, saying she can't leave her people behind as they'd be punished for her running away. She then goes to say that her captives had agreed on an arrangement that says if she wins 15 battles in a row, they set both her and her clan free. Venti reluctantly agrees to leave her there, and the night goes by. Vanessa is woken up by Barca, who has shocking news for her, that not only would she be fighting the next opponent, but her kin would also be in their arena. Her and her clan are forced out of Mondstadt in shackles, where, once again, she's met with another shocking revelation, this time from Lord Lawrence himself, saying that her next and final opponent would be Ursa the Drake. The townspeople start screaming at Lord Lawrence, telling him he's a murderer for making such an unfair matchup, to which he only laughs and says that if she could win, then he'd both set her clan free, as well as give Vanessa his property. Ursa the Drake flies in and begins attacking. Vanessa's clan attempts to flee to the city, only to be shot at with arrows by the nobles. As the battle raged on, Vanessa began to grow tired, but she still continued to fight. But then, when all seemed a loss, Venti shows up and grants Vanessa the power of the wind, allowing her to do one final slash against Ursa the Drake. This slash, as well as the appearance of Barbatos, is enough to make the dragon flee. When Vanessa realizes that Venti is the Anemo Archon, Venti simply gives her an apple and only asks her if he can add her name to his songs. Vanessa says she's more than happy to be part of his songs, to which Venti replies, "You'll be more than just a part. You were the hero of this new saga. You fought bravely for the freedom of your people, so allow me to fight for your freedom as well. After all, we're very good friends." Before he leaves, he makes sure Lord Lawrence keeps his word and gives Vanessa both freedom as well as the keys to Mondstadt. Venti as a character is one the Genshin community enjoys a lot, both for his lore and for all the fun moments he brings to the game. Whether that's a major story, events, or one-off interactions, Venti has left an impression on all of us. Venti is seen to be a thoughtful and generous person, as seen when he attempts to give the young bard an eagle feather as a gift, as the boy has never seen one before. Another example of this is during his character story 5, where he gives credit where credit is due, to all 4 winds of Mondstadt. The Anemo Archon cannot take credit for everything in Mondstadt. Credit should be given where credit is due. I shall sing now the praises of things beauteous and true. We thank the west wind, whose enduring caress brings in the blossoms of spring, by whose scent we are blessed. Finches, ducks, rabbits, and boars, Mondstadt's revival bid them thrive evermore. In summer the lion walks the plains. No words one finds to praise it but these. Do you sweat out your water to make way for wine? Comes the heat of the summer from your mane of sunshine. The mountain mouse engorges low, like drunkard wayward lies, but the east wind cares not, for it does not walk, it flies. Over the fruit trees it brushes low, and its wings bring the harvest of things that grow. The north wind in the silent forest slumbers, and around it paces the wolves in their numbers, though most have never a glimpse of them seen, for the wind knows that none is of winter too keen. Yet the Anemo Archon glimpses and sees that it dreams each night of warm reverie. As the 4 seasons in turn shall say their piece, so the 4 winds too shall never cease. Of course, to look at it differently, I am the one who should be credited here, and not they. Credit should be given where credit belongs. If not for the bard who pens the song, then who shall ensure that these tales are passed on? He gives credits to the 4 winds for their contribution towards the peace and freedom of Mondstadt, the west wind for bringing in the blessing of spring, the south for making wine? I'm honestly not sure what that line means. I'm not really good with metaphors, so if you know the underlying meaning, please let me know in the comments, as I would love to understand it. Anyways, okay, carrying on. He also thanks the East Wind for bringing the harvest with its wings, and finally, while it isn't explicitly said as thanks, it's pretty implied he's grateful for the North Wind for giving its life in the Archon War to overthrow the god of storms. Next, I'd like to take a look at Venti's relationship with alcohol. Wait, not that one. At first glance, it seems pretty typical of a dynamic that he has with alcohol, at least for Mondstadt standards. Well, I personally think it's heavily implied to be a coping mechanism stemming from the losses he's faced over his 2,000 plus year lifespan. But don't get me wrong, I do believe that he genuinely loves alcohol. But while this is the case, I still believe things can both exist at once, especially with something as complex as alcoholism. Also, while trying to find other people's opinions on this specific topic, I found this Reddit post by Key_brother over on the Genshin subreddit. Basically, they go on to say that Venti likes dandelion wine as he drinks 37 glasses of it, which is the signature wine of Dawn Winery. They also go on to say, do you know what the meaning of dandelions is? One of its meaning is healing from emotional and physical pain. Then they ask, could Venti be trying to heal his emotional pain brought by the boy he once knew? The young boy obviously referring to the young bard who died during the Archon War. And actually, this is true. Dandelions symbolize a wide variety of things, but the most common theme of them is a sense of resilience, hope, and healing. Over on the, excuse my pronunciation please, Longview website, which is a historic house museum and associated gardens in New Orleans, Louisiana. Thus purpose is to preserve and share the legacy of design, community, and lifelong learning, which basically means they know a lot about culture and, as the title suggests, they also have a garden. They say the dandelion is a well-known weed, yet this humble plant is also a symbol of hope, healing, and resilience in many cultures around the world from Europe to Asia. And also, the flowers, leaves, and roots of the dandelion are edible and have been used since ancient times in salads, jams, teas, and wines, as well as in herbal supplements, to treat a range of ailments from arthritis to depression. So yeah, dandelion wine being one of Venti's favorite alcoholic beverages, and dandelions being used to treat depression. I gotta say, Venti, it's starting to look a little suspect. May I say, when I found this out, I felt very smart. I even texted my best friend about it. I was so happy. Well, not happy that it cursed depression, but like, that my brain actually worked for once and I did some research. So that's very cool. That's just very fun, okay? But that will conclude this part of the video, and it's time for the trivia to end things off on. And I'd first like to say a large majority of this info is coming from the fandom wiki page, because I'm not as smart as them, so I'm just gonna piggyback off their hard work. But seriously, go check out the wiki page. I'll have it linked in the description for anyone who's interested, because I quite literally couldn't do this if people who are much smarter than me didn't compile all this info into a nicely formatted wiki page. And it's time for fast fire trivia, okay? Let's go. He likes to play in the rain and gets upset when it stops.
Let's go jumping in puddles and see who can make the biggest splash. It stopped raining already? A shame. I wanted to play some more.
He knows every song throughout Teyvat, both past, present, and future ones. He's highly allergic to cats. Because of this, he can't drink at the cat's tail.
I'm actually highly allergic to cats. I start sneezing as soon as they enter the vicinity, and... apparently I can't even think about cats without sneezing. Do you think there's a cure for this monstrous affliction?
He doesn't like sticky and slimy things, like melted cheese pancakes. Venti dislikes Celestia. He calls the water foul and the fruit bland.
Celestia? I'm not sure even I could fly that far. In any case, the water there tastes foul, and the fruit is bland. You know what that means. No cider! In that case, I wouldn't go there even if I was invited.
And speaking of fruit, Venti's favorite food are apples. Venti is bad at baking and finds it complicated, but that doesn't stop him from making you an apple-flavored cake for your birthday. At least what was supposed to be a cake.
Someone once told me you're supposed to eat a cake on your birthday. Ta-da! Here's your birthday cake. It's apple-flavored. And here's a spoon. The cake didn't rise properly in the oven. That's why it looks more akin to an apple pie. Baking is really quite complicated.
His birthday is on June 16th, making him a Gemini, which is also fun for me, because I'm also a Gemini. The ends of his braids light up when he uses his elemental skill in Burst, which is a trait all Archons have. Another part of his outfit that glows is the ornament on the back of his shawl, as well as his vision. And speaking of which, during the Unreconciled Stars event and the Crane Returns to the Wind Archon quest, his vision does not glow like how real visions do when near stars splintered iron. Venti's attire resembles that of, excuse my pronunciation, Cologne, Germany's Prince of Carnival. They wear the same puffy shorts, white tights, short cape, and a cap with feathers. Cologne's carnival closely resembles Mondstadt's Ludi Harpastum, and Cologne's is also dominated by a Gothic cathedral closely resembling Mondstadt's cathedral. Venti resembles another one of Hoyoverse's characters from another one of their games, that being Wendy from Honkai Impact 3rd. I can't really say if there's any other similarities other than physical, as I haven't played Honkai 3rd, but yeah, they look pretty similar. As of 4.5, Venti is the only playable Archon to not have a second story quest, as well as being the only Archon to not have introduced a new weekly boss through their story quest. This is because, technically, Farina is not an Archon. His name comes from the Latin word Venti, meaning winds. This name was also used by the Romans to refer to a group of Hellenic wind deities, known in Greek as the Anemoi, that were associated by the cardinal directions. His Archon name, Barbatos, was taken from the Ars Goetia, which in it he is said to be an Earl and Duke of Hell, ruling 30 legions of demons and has 4 kings as his companions to command his legions. He can speak with animals till the future consolidates, I think that's that word, I don't know how to pronounce it, friends and rulers, and can lead men to treasures hidden by an enchantment of magicians. His constellation, Clonmende, is Latin for the Song of God. Venti is known to have used and owned 2 lyres, the first one being held in the Church of Mondstadt, the Holy Lyre de Himmel, which is a mix of both German and English, meaning Holy Lyre of the Heavens. The second one is called Der Frühling, which is German for the spring, which is actually what his fake vision is, as he uses it in combat. And lastly, since Mondstadt is based in Germany, it's very likely that Venti may have been inspired by a Latin motto,
Tillam spirare libertatis auram,
meaning see that the winds of freedom blows, by a German poet and humanist, Ulrich von Hutten, with an intention of supporting the Lutheran Reformation. This was later retranslated to be the winds of freedom blows, and is now the official motto of Stanford University. While Venti may seem like the stereotypical drunk comedic bard, and which he is, he's much more than that. He's compassionate, analytical, and above all else, kind-hearted. He makes sure that those who work hard for what they believe in gets the credit they deserve, and believes everyone should be able to live their lives while pursuing their idea of freedom. And while his methods of this may seem strange to those who don't live in Mondstadt, all Mondstadters hold a special place in their hearts for the god, and most do for Venti as well. But in Venti's words, can freedom mandated by the god of freedom be considered freedom at all? Venti never wanted to be a god. He was perfectly content living his life as a small wind spirit drifting through the skies. Venti's story is about the death of the old and familiar while bringing in the new and the strange. He has spring motifs all over his character. I mean, come on, one of his lyres is named The Spring. Spring is about welcoming in the new beginning, but to have a new beginning, you would have to have had an end, which in the context of the seasons would be winter. But for Venti, the winter would be his rebirth as a god, and the spring would be, well, New Mondstadt, which makes this story bittersweet. Well, yes, he's freed Mondstadt from the clutches of the god of storms, he still lost countless people over his time as a god. But even though he's experienced so much over the years, he's still able to find the joy in the little things in life, like eating an apple, napping in a tree, or taking an evening walk. Venti's character is the embodiment of the spring. He represents the bringing of a new beginning, despite going through the harsh ending known as the winter. He's able to bring some familiarity into the unfamiliar, which is why, even though it can be sometimes gloomy with rain, he still wants to go play in the puddles. And that will conclude today's video. I really hope you guys liked it. This video is long overdue. It was meant to be out way sooner, but I got strep throat. And then even after that, I was still too fatigued to do anything. So that was 2 weeks down the drain. And when I finally started getting better, man, life really has a way to just stab you in the back constantly, doesn't it? There's just been a lot going on. But yeah, I finally got it done, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on. That way you can stay up to date with all my lore videos. But yeah, hope to see you in the next video. And I promise it's going to be much faster to get out. I promise, like, in at least a week or two. That's it. But yeah, hope you have a nice rest of your day, and stay cozy. Bye!